For any society to experience any meaningful and indeed sustainable development, it must be seen to have good leaders in place, because leaders actually guide that society on the path of progress. But that has become a challenge, globally. Yes, talking about a global challenge of leadership, but our concentration will be on Nigeria. But right now we take this background report put together by Francis Obi to set the pace for the program today.
Some have argued that leaders are born, not made. However, some people who have never had leadership role will stand up and take the lead when a situation they care about requires it. A simple example is parenting.
Basically, it remains an indubitable fact that the parents have a lot to do with issue of leadership. The Bible gave us injunction that we should train up a child, and when the child grow up, the child will not depart from that training of the parents. If our parents train us very well, train the children very well, I can assure you that we'll be able to have good leadership. But sometimes also, the parents may be good and the child also may be corrupt. I used to have a friend who was a commissioner of police, and the child was caught in terrible act. That does not mean that the child was not brought up well. So I want to say that in leadership, the parents have a lot of role to play.
Educational leaders play an important role in affecting the climate, attitude, and reputation of their schools. With successful school leadership, schools become effective incubators of learning, places where students are not only educated but challenged, nurtured, and encouraged.
The school have a lot of role to play in child leadership. I could remember that when I gained admission to higher institution, at 200 level, I contested for the position of student president, and I became the presido. And within 300 level and 400 level, my school came on board, just because we had leaders that taught us leadership, and we had students that were interested in leadership. So I want to say that the school have a lot to do in terms of training children to become very good leaders.
Although leadership skills are acquired and shown by both men and women, there exist certain differences in the basic traits and qualities possessed by men and women in leadership.
Of old, our parents actually do not actually give room to female education. But at present, for the past 20, 30, 40 years now, the music changed towards the issue of leadership. Let me give an example. Today we have the #1 woman on earth today in terms of trade, industry, trade, and so on and so on. Wela Konja from Delta State. We know the role that she has played as a great woman, as an economist. So I want to say that it is not the place that makes the woman, it is the woman that makes the place.
The need for Nigerians to urgently reflect back on the values, visions, and aspirations of Nigeria's founding fathers and the institutionalization of leadership training centers become highly inevitable.
Leadership is a growing process that one needs to be trained, one needs to be educated, one needs to be exposed. So if you discover our system in Nigeria, you discover that only the old men want to be in power and the younger ones are not given free hands. The younger ones are in a hurry, but I think that we need to change the situation. Think about Nigeria having the highest shipping line in Africa. And today we don't have sheep anymore. We don't have badges. Where are all the strollers of Hebrew, Ogboro and the rest, federal government stroller? What happened to NPA? It's bad leadership. What happened to Nigerian Airways, that was the best in Africa? Today is Ethiopia. What happened to it? Leadership. Where is Daily Times? Where is Ozava? Leadership. Where is AP&T, Sapler, the biggest wood industry in Africa as a whole? Today we import toothpick from China and Ghana, plywood from Ghana. Leadership. Talk about DST in Warri, Alaja, where you're supposed to produce all the road that serves this country. Today we are importing, and the place is lying down far there. Less than 10 billion naira to revive it, and over 5,000 people will walk over there. Leadership. Talk about Asabatezame, the biggest in the whole South. Today, leadership. Talk about data gas industry, the biggest to manufacture louvers, whisk-cream in the whole of Africa. Over 20 years now. Bad leadership. Thank God for President Buhari that the real way has come back now. We're going back to leadership.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on leadership in contemporary Nigeria. Weekend Deal.
Well, that's an interesting one there. Of course, to continue the show, we have joined us in the studio a politician and a former member, House of Representative, in the person of Honorable Chukwuemeka Ujam. He was the Chairman House Committee on Telecoms then. You're welcome to our studios.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah. Okay, you listened to that report, and it actually says that leadership begins from home. Let's start from there.
Okay, today being a Sunday, let's dwell a bit on the biblical injunction of raising a child in the right way, and he will never depart when he grows. So yes, of course, that's the fulcrum. The basic minimum is the family, and if an individual grows from a family that has proper guidance, that kind of guidance can nurture leadership in a sense. But you see, not everybody is born to be a leader. There's a role for every individual, and so there are instances where the parents cannot lead properly, so it transfers to school, and as you know, the number of years individuals spend in school, the formative years, the primary, secondary school. So a lot, of course, lies with the teachers. And so the teachers are the ones that can also identify very, very interesting character traits in individuals, nurture the children to become leaders. And they themselves, of course, have to lead by example. So, but you see that growing up, many people do point to certain teachers they had when growing up and saying, oh, Mr. or Mrs. X or Miss X helped us and has shaped my worldview.
Well, obviously, when the child leaves the home,
Yep.
school,
Yep.
peer group, he or she mix with a whole lot of influences outside the home, and that begins to shape what the child eventually becomes, in the future. But looking at the question of leadership in Nigeria, yes, given the things that happen in the country today, you talk about, the economy, you talk about some, security issues and all of that. And some people are saying that it's not really the issue of leadership. Perhaps followership also has some issues. And for us to have progress, these two must come together to chart a way forward.
So thank you. I have a slightly different opinion on this. The truth is, the followers are following a leader. And so if the leader has no direction, the followers are just left to their wiles. So the thing to get in place is proper leadership. Nigeria today, I would say, we need to really properly, even in this discussion, distinguish between leadership and rulership. See, a leader has to have direction, has to have an understanding of where he or she wants to go. And then the followers follow that leader. Now, you know, in times past you hear of body language of person X.
Yeah.
Oh, person Y has now come into quote unquote authority. Let's see how he or she behaves.
So are you saying that what most of our leaders in the country today are actually rulers?
Don't put me on the spot there, but you know, I think that I mean, let's be honest, that's the problem. The system, quote unquote, the population throws up sometimes the wrong set of people, and so they have no clue as to what it is to be leader. Now, in political parlance, once you assume any form of political office, everybody shouts leader, 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 leader. But that's not really what it is. If you don't have a passion for the people, have an understanding of the people, have a personal, innate sense of obligation and direction where you want to go to, you're just there to enjoy the perks of office and assume the role of the authority.
Perhaps bad leadership we have in a society is as a result of bad followership, that the followers are actually responsible for having bad leaders in place. Now, is it the fact that the followers really don't have, you know, the voice, because they have different instruments they can use to make their demands known, their thoughts known, you know, their desires, their wishes and all of that? You talk about recall process, you talk about, you know, during voting, you talk about peaceful protest and all of that. But the system we have in place in the country, does it really, you know, provide that platform for the masses to be effective, really?
So let's be honest here. The short answer is yes, on paper.
Okay.
But in practice, of course, it's certainly miles away from what's on paper. And remember that I initially did mention the fact that for as long as the end game, one in Nigeria, for instance, it's a zero-sum game, winner takes all. The prize is a very interesting prize. So people are there just to say, okay, give me what you can give me during the campaign process, because they know or they foresee what you will get or what the prize is. Now, that's where you blame the followership. However, let's go back to the very interesting example of a shepherd and a flock. So the flock follow the shepherd, and that's the leader. Wherever the shepherd is going, the flock follow. If anything happens to any of the animals, the shepherd looks back and wants to tend for that particular animal. So there's sacrifice. You also see that the leader is going through the same path that the followers are going through. Now, but in Nigeria, it's different. Once you assume power, it's a different pedestal, and you are many times removed from the quote-unquote flock. Now, we would, of course, intertwine that definition of ruler and leader. Because, you see, a leader also doesn't have to be a political leader.
Yeah.
There are people who have immense influence and are leaders. There are leaders who are certainly not interested in politics. but have so much say and influence on individuals. So, for instance, teachers. The teachers who shape our children at a very young age and nurture them, those are the true leaders. You would see a so-called strict teacher, but that strict teacher is trying to shape your ward. And maybe the child views the teacher as wicked, but later on would understand what that process was meant to bestow on him or her. And that's true leadership, because you're supposed to know better. And that's why you have a sense of direction. You know where you want to go. You know where the people need to be. And there's an unwavering sense of direction. Even when the ill winds come, you're not pushed away because you know where you're going. That's leadership.
Well, an interesting one there, and thank you for speaking to us this morning, Honorable Chukwuemeka Ujem. And of course, if I take something away from your conversation with us this morning, is the fact that leaders must sacrifice.
Yes.
They must sacrifice and then also serve, as a servant, or they should be in a way of servant leadership, is in a way, because they are responsible for their people. Thank you very much for speaking with us. And of course, you are a young person, and I know that not too long ago we had Not Too Young to Run Act, which is in place now. I don't know if that has changed or changed anything in the political landscape of Nigeria by encouraging a lot of young persons to come into leadership position, if you like, vie for a leadership position in the country. But Dayo did, something in that regard: youth and political leadership.
More than half of Nigerian population is made up of young people. Besides, the Not Too Young to Run bill, signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari, was designed to encourage youth to take up more political leadership positions. Despite these advantages, Nigerian youths are still finding themselves marginalized from mainstream political leadership and decision-making.
Increased interest on the part of young people who want to run and seek for public office. And thanks to the Not Too Young to Run movement, and to, Nigerian youths who advocated for this bill and got their lawmakers to amend the constitution to create that space. Are we where we want to be? No, certainly not, because the youth representation as of today is about 6%, and that's abysmally low. So we need more young people indicating interest to run for office.
Nigerian youths are still struggling to gain respect from public officials. They are seen as lacking the skills and experience to engage in political leadership and take active, positive change in their communities.
Cost of politics and the cost of running for office and nomination, it is too high. You cannot charge people, you cannot charge an economically disadvantaged population millions of naira just to procure nomination forms or sundry fees in the parties. So parties need to review, the cost of nomination. But the larger chunk of the monies and the expenditure for campaigns isn't just the nomination forms. It's also the cost of campaigns. They're very capital intensive.
All over the world, youths are known to demand and defend democracy. And when given opportunity to organize and voice their opinions, they play a meaningful role in political leadership and decision-making. They consistently demonstrate their willingness and ability to foster positive and lasting change in nation building.
You've got a society that doesn't believe in the capacity of young people. And I think it's sociological. And so we need a new socialization, a socialization that changes the paradigm of people, that this whole concept of young people need to wait for their time, there's never going to be any time that will we'll get to and say young people are ready. A lot of young people are already demonstrating leadership. Is it business? Is it hospitality? Is it sports? Is it arts? There are a lot of young people who are doing excellent and are projecting this country to the outside world.
Nigerian youth status, therefore, should not be an exception. They need real opportunities to participate in political processes and leadership while also contributing practical solutions that will advance development of the nation at large.
Nigerian.
Well, when you talk about leadership, of course, there's no end to it. It's a conversation that we must sustain until we get it right. And even when we get it right, we must continue to talk about it to sustain that progress we must have achieved. We have joined us in the studio, Princess Zara Mustafa Audu, excuse me. Okay, what's happening to me? I need to, say your name very well. Princess Zara Mustafa Audu. She is the chairperson, Progressive Youth Movement. Okay, good to have you on set with us. And before that, you saw the report on youth and political, participation, if you like, leadership in the country. And we have a whole lot of things happening around the youth politics, in the country. And just yesterday, you had a town hall meeting. How did that go?
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start by putting our flag up so that we try and stay patriotic throughout this conversation. I know I'm here at NTA and you guys are mostly censored, so can I get this to stand?
Don't worry, we can get it to just slide here.
Okay, sure. All right. So, yes, we did have a town hall meeting for the Northwest Zone in Kaduna State yesterday, and it was very successful. The conversation around getting good leadership must continue. And like we said, rightfully, the last time I was on your show, whether we like it or not, the buck starts and stops most times within the political party. That is where the real fight is, because when you get to the polls, they've already presented you with two candidates, either Mr. A or Mr. B,
yeah.
And you have no choice. So the place to start the fight is within the political parties. We within the APC are gearing up for our convention. So it is very critical and very important that the young stakeholders start to speak with one voice and start to say, we must be included. That's the time to fight. That's the time to speak up. The town hall meeting that was held in Kaduna State yesterday, at the town hall meeting, the young stakeholders decided that the caretaker committee will no longer be recognized. We've decided to sack them because we are majority within the party. During the revalidation exercise, right, that was just concluded, we saw that the APC now claims that we have 40 million members. Again, we cannot verify this because this has not been, they haven't translated this into an electronic device, so there's transparency and we can actually say yes or no.
So
if we have
you're
this.
doubting the data?
No, I can't. I'm not doubting the data. I am saying the data does not exist for for us to verify. But based on that data that has been provided to us, we're also made aware that we have over 35 million who are young people. So we are majority. And on this premise, right, we are in a democracy, majority carries the vote. The APC from inception was a party for the people. If you remember in 2014, when President Muhammadu Buhari was running, right? If you remember, the common market women were contributing, recharge card, 100 naira, 200 naira, 1,000 naira.
Vividly.
Many young people believed. We never believed in politics prior to APC. I want to be honest with you. We dabbled here and there because our parents and people around us were in politics. But 2014 gave us that hope that Nigeria could be better. Many left their jobs as bankers. I mean, I can only speak about the APC. I don't know what goes on in opposition. Left their job as bankers, as teachers, as lawyers, and joined the party because they believed. They put their sweat, their time. APC is a party for the people.
But are people really reaping the benefit of that sacrifice as we speak today?
I'll tell you why I would say no. After the victory in 2015, many strange aliens found their way into the party. And because, again, the opposition had always played, power politics, whereby it's the power gladiators and, money politics. They tried to bring their corrupt ways of money politics into the APC. And to be fair, the APC was in fact, I feel like the APC was not a party in 2014, 2015. I'll explain this to you. It was a collective group of people who came together and said Nigeria must be fixed. We had ideologies, we had principles, there were fundamental values that we all shared.
You have leaders in different...
There were fundamental values that we all shared, right? Yeah. But we were not cohesive enough to be called a party, right? And these guys who had been in the opposition, who had been running parties for a long time, saw that weakness in 2015 and they muscled in. They muscled in, and many of them have started to try and hijack the party. It's gotten worse. It's getting worse every day. And this is the reason why, as young people, we've come together and say enough is enough. The trust that the Nigerian people put in us, they have not ripped. Where they sowed, they've not ripped. That's the truth.
So in the essence, you are saying that the youth must wake up to participate actively in the party politics. Because that's actually the process of those who, eventually become, the candidates and all of that.
Candidates.
But, Princess Zara, you will agree with me that we have the Not Too Young to Run Act in place. Youths were, actively involved in what we have now in place to encourage young Nigerians to come out to vie for different political positions. But how effective has that act been since
tell you
it
something.
came to be?
In 2015, the price of nomination forms were different. I'm sure you're aware of that. Yeah. It was a lot more affordable. In 2019, we saw a spike. The minute that law was signed by our president to make it easier for young people to participate, the nomination forms became more expensive. Expression of interest forms became more expensive. Politics, even without any of those expenses, it's a very expensive game. That's the truth. It's a game for the elite. It's unfortunate, but it's true. It's a very expensive game. And then by making even the entry requirements so high and so ridiculous, you still sideline the youth. So I feel that even that was a deliberate attempt to still push them out. So for me, right, I also feel it's not even, we can't keep blaming just the leaders, they've gotten away with what they've gotten away with because we have allowed them to. That's the truth, right? I'll give you an example. A few days ago on social media, I saw a popular artist come on and demand some money, and people that have money and those who don't have money, they supported the cause. Young people are always distracted and facing the wrong direction. Big Brother Nigeria, you see so many of them contributing money. We need to save our country. Shortly after Big Brother Nigeria, you hear the slang, what is it called, Jackpot or something? I'm leaving the country. You're leaving the country for what? These are some people. These are educated people that will leave Nigeria and then go and do,
But Zara, some would say that you're having mass majority of youth, focus on the entertainment, Big Brother Nigeria and all of that, because they're actually not interested in politics, and not even that because of the failure in the system, system that gives them jobs, system that guarantee, food on the table and all of that. But we come to that after we must have taken this report by NTA. This one is titled Quality of Good Leaders.
What makes a man unique and upright is not in what he has or what he gives or how he is, but how he leads. In times past, various people have and are still leading by example, practicing what they preach. The qualities of a leader may be seen by his or our own actions, but if it doesn't come and start from the heart, where the power of man is conceived, then it is all a wasted effort. The questions, therefore, is, what makes a good leader? What qualities should he or she have and display?
In the selection of a leader, people should look out for character. What is character and why is it important in leadership? There are parts of character or parts of an individual that make up his character. First of all, do you think this person has integrity? Is the individual able to communicate at a level where he is respectful to others and he is able to openly give information and take feedback? Is the individual somebody that is selfless, somebody that puts others above himself in some instances, or at least takes others into consideration in his decision making? Is that leader objective? Can you trust this person to take decisions that can be said to be unbiased and to be the best decisions based on whatever information is available to him at that particular instance?
Oftentimes, then we care to believe we are what our leaders project into us. Assimilating this can either be good or bad and can versely affect the directions we intend to follow.
We really haven't started. Why? Our mindset is not for the best. We are still crowded, hijacked with ethnicity, tribalism, my own, our own, and we don't care about capacity. We don't care about ability to deliver.
It's important that people understand that leaders or people they select as leaders have to meet certain criteria. They have to be able to tell the people or the constituents or those that they expect to lead what exactly they want to do with the office. What are they going to achieve in the office? But it's not enough to tell people, I am going to achieve A or B or C. How are you going to achieve A or B or C? Now, when they answer those questions, they should also be able to tell the people how they probably will be able to, for instance, mobilize resources to achieve these things that they've set out to achieve. And yes, back to the issue of character, you need to scrutinize these people. What we need is a very, very objective system that allows for the populace to really scrutinize their leaders and to really hold their leaders accountable when the need arises.
Honesty, sincerity, courage, capability, abilities, love. All are great attributes of a leader, and if this is taught and seen in the life of a leader, a generation of like minds will spring up, which will be a good thing for any structure, such as the family, organization, or country.
When we are selecting leaders, then people hold themselves accountable. Because if you are an objective person, then when you are trying to elect a leader, it means that you hold yourself accountable. Am I making the right decision? Do I think this person meets the criteria that would make for the kind of leadership that we expect or we deserve to have in whatever environment or even in the society that you are in? So I would say that the issue of leadership is not just about those in authority. It's about the fact that we as citizens, as individuals, at our personal level, have failed to be leaders. And when you fail to be a leader at that personal level, then it becomes difficult for you to even see clearly or understand what leadership is about and make the right decision when selecting or electing leaders, as the case may be.
The essence of a leader in any society is to direct, protect, gather, create, provide, enhance, promote, and project good qualities into the hearts of his followers, ensuring them of a better. And if that goal is lost, then the purpose has failed.
Nigerian you.
Thank you for that report. And a lot of things, came up in that report. By the way, Princess Zara is still here. And you can keep, sending your messages. We'll get to share them with the rest of the viewer. Now, Princess, selecting a leader, involves a critical thought process in the sense that you ask key questions. Is this person the right person to lead? Is this person, what are his antecedents? What are his track record and all of that? But unfortunately, the people who are expected to involve or engage in this critical thought process sometimes will tell you they are not interested in politics. And that's why you have, even at the local level, you have the council chairman who, probably just finished from secondary school. They don't even know much about how to pilot affairs of a society. What can we do differently to, change the mindset, to change this narrative, to ensuring that people are encouraged to come into politics? Because its political leadership is very important, really.
I think for us at the Progressive Youth Movement, this is why we're doing our town hall meetings. This is why we're going from zone to zone. We'll soon be going from state to state. This is why we're being deliberate about sharing the message and getting people involved long before 2023. We're still in 2021, right? So we're starting this message. We can't afford to fold our hands and say, oh, the people that should be interested are not interested. We need to do things that will get them interested, whether we like it or not. We all have the same pains as the average man, the lack of electricity, the poverty, the illiteracy, the insecurity, which is a major thing that's affecting the whole of Nigeria. So we can't afford to fold our hands and say Nigerians are not interested. We have to keep talking, and we need to keep stirring the waters until we get their attention. And that's what we're trying to do. The truth about it is, at this point in time, a lot of people are disenfranchised, and rightly so. In 2014, many young people, many young entertainers came up to speak and fight for the APC, and that's how we came into power. But unfortunately, we failed to deliver on many of those promises. Right now, and as we speak, most people believe that the APC and the PDP are two sides of one coin. But I'll tell you what is different. I'll tell you the only difference in the APC. Two things. One, the young stakeholders in the APC are very different, very, very different from the PDP. And secondly, President Muhammadu Buhari. Those are the only two things. Everything else is the same. So those are the two things, those are the two pillars that we must stand on as young people to save our country. Because this is not even just a mission for the APC. I believe every political party should have had this conversation. I believe before the PDP convention, the young stakeholders should have had this kind of conversation. It's unfortunate they haven't. I'm hoping that other political parties will take a cue from us and shake that table. If you do not have the right young representatives at that table, you will continue to suffer what we are suffering today.
And talking about all political parties in the country, not just restricting it to the APC.
Exactly.
This message says, with good leadership, you can create a vision and motivate people to make it reality. This one is coming from Kabir Harandi. You did not tell us where you are texting us from. The next one says, leaders are from the followers. Followers made the leaders. Followers actually make leaders. The crop of leaders in the First Republic were servants compared to what we have in our present day reality. Now, quickly, as you wrap up this conversation, what can we do differently as young Nigerians to ensuring that we have the right people in place to lead this country? Of course, the leadership often is said that begins with the individual.
I think, first of all, like they say, all battles are won in the mind. First of all, work on yourself. You need to believe. We need to believe in ourselves. I believe in myself. I don't know how we're going to achieve this. I don't have a clear plan, but I know I won't stop till we get there. So first of all is work on yourself. Once you work on yourself, then you can start to work on the smaller units around you, your household. Stop accepting things that are below a certain standard. I'm sorry. That's where we start from. Once you work on yourself and you know where you want to be, we know the Nigeria we want to see, go for it. Everybody needs to do their own little quota towards making a difference. Everybody is a leader in their own right. You don't need anybody's permission to add substance to Nigeria. The country is as much ours as it is yours. You do not need anybody's permission to do anything positive. Initially people will not believe in the dream, but as it gains momentum, you would see that you're starting to make a difference. And I believe at the Progressive Youth Movement, we are starting to make a difference. And by God's grace, we will be instrumental in setting a new pace for politics in 2023, inshallah.
Well, an interesting conversation there. And at the beginning of the show, while we're trying to place this flag, You said NTA censored? Or?
I placed the flag purposely in the NTA because I want you to understand that your first loyalty should be to that flag, to the Nigerian people. No, because I feel like I'll be honest with you, we had a town hall meeting yesterday and it was quite controversial simply for the fact that we decided that the APC caretaker committee, as it stands today, are sacked. We are not stopping there. They should expect a lot more from us, and we are coming.
All right, I'm sure we'll create more platform that you can speak about that. But NTA has always been, you know.
I believe you have been. You have been. I can speak individually. You have always been. This show has always been.
NTA as an organization, because this show is part of the organization.
You're right. You're right.
So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I know that with people like you, the future is definitely bright for this nation. With people like
you, the future is definitely bright for this nation.
We are all in this
and I'm very glad to meet you here again today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Princess Zara. It's been a pleasure, always a pleasure speaking to you. Now, we know that the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, also have a role to play when we talk about leadership in any aspect of our lives. So let's take this next report that borders on that, and after that, the show continues. This one is coming from Sokoto.
That every individual in the society is a leader in one capacity or the other. Perhaps we are all responsible for each other. Even an individual who seems to be alone is responsible for himself. But at the mention of the word leadership, some tend to limit it to certain categories of people, particularly those in position of authority. And for this reason, leaders bear the blame for almost everything.
A leader may be any person, not only those on the seat of the government. A leader can be a person in his own house. A leader can be a principal of the school. The Prophet ﷺ is saying, كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته.
Now, as light of the world, it means that we are not talking about the artificial light. We are talking about our characters, our attitudes that people can see, and then they will say, oh, these are the things I have read in the Bible pertaining Jesus Christ, and I can see those things in the life of this person. Then we can now be called the light of the world.
In every society, there should be basic training in core values, and the school is expected to play this key role.
Subjects like civic education, for instance, and though history in some of the schools it has been phased out, especially civic education that address the issue of leadership with students.
Apart from the subjects in the official curriculum, schools have avenues designed to indirectly prepare children for leadership responsibilities.
What we call the representative councils, and it is expected that schools should employ or should use this avenue in introducing students generally to assuming some leadership roles.
Even in class, some are monitors, some are assistant monitors, prepared and so on. Even on the issue of assembly, and even the clubs and societies, one of the avenues on which you are training the children for the future leadership roles.
This is also another strategy to prepare leaders of tomorrow. Low participation of girls in schools is a common issue in some communities in Nigeria. For this reason, young girls at Government Secondary School Rinjansambo Sokoto are trained to carry out projects to develop leadership qualities as well as responsibility of enlightening their out-of-school peers.
Meetings, be the ambassadors, so that we can help other females that are not here, those that does not go to school, males and even the females.
Teachers occupy prominent positions in schools. They are expected to prepare learners for different social roles in the society. However, that can only be achieved when they lead by example.
The kind of teachers you have, the way they do their things, is part of the larger society. They are also part of the microcosm of the wider society. So, but you find that some leaders, some teachers are up to the task and up to the expectation, but majority are not.
Helping them to pass exam in the wrong manner by exam malpractice, schools don't allow that. But schools who allow that as well, I wonder why they are called a school. If that is a school and the only thing you can do to help your children pass is to encourage them into malpractice, it will come to a point in time that it is even those children themselves that will see the fault. And the teacher lose value, they lose respect.
To ensure good leadership training in schools, other key attributes need to be taken into consideration in addition to educational qualification. This will go a long way in ensuring the employment of well-rounded teachers who can double as mentors.
We have joined us in the studio Engineer Y. Sani. Is a former presidential aspirant and a politician and also a development expert. You are welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Well, you have been following the thrill of our conversation, the report. People have been talking different views about leadership in a society, because the leaders are actually critical to achieving a meaningful and indeed sustainable development in any society. Now, would you say that we have fared well in terms of leaders in the country? Because some are saying that in the First Republic, the leaders we had then were servants. They were working for the people. They were sacrificing a lot, to satisfy the people that they were leading. But the conversation has really, shifted in our present day reality. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, thank you very much. As a national chairman of Action Democratic Party, ADP, we pride ourselves as the credible alternative, for a good leadership in this country. And this is because we have taken our time to do an in-depth study of why we are where we are today in this country.
Yeah.
If you take it from 1914 up to 1963, when we had our constitution, which now gave Nigeria independence. 1960, we were still under, Queen, the Queen of Nigeria then was Queen of Elizabeth of London, who's the monarch, United Kingdom. And we had, the Governor General at the time of the independence, who was Nnamdi Azikiwe, until we got our independence, our constitution in 1963, which now gave the president to become an executive president. What I'm trying to say is that if you look at the history and the trajectory of what Nigerian leadership quotient and what we're supposed to deliver to the nationals, you will see that we are coming from a background of colonialism, and that itself introduced a certain way of thinking, that you cannot say that it is indigenous, our thinking. But when we got our own independence, that we're supposed to behave and act indigenous, unfortunately, again, the issues of those dichotomies, issue of religion, issue of region, crept in, and that it didn't allow us to really enjoy the kind of great leap forward that we should have had by way of leadership that would be leadership that is about Nigeria. But unfortunately, again, when the military, struck in when the military coup, the first coup that took place, that also introduced another dimension into the whole thing. The First Republic, which was short-lived, the military mentality that came, after the First Republic, was that it's not necessarily about Nigeria, but about we, the groups that are in power now. And you of course, you agree with me that the most corrupt regime is a military regime, because the checks and balances that you're supposed to have in terms of democratic settings, it's no longer there.
Well, some would tell you it's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, well, it's a matter of opinion, but the system itself does not tolerate or does not allow for checks and balances. Whoever is in power, human nature, has absolute power. And absolute power, what does it do?
It corrupts.
It corrupts, absolutely. So this is why that military mentality, that we experience that we had, also it interfered with our experiment with democracy since 1999, to today. That you still find,
I
the
find
traces.
it very curious when you say experimented. You from all we have experienced so far, we're still experimenting our democracy.
Up to today, as we speak, we have not gotten what you can call a democratic government. What we have is still civil rule, because a situation where you have the military, changing their khaki to become Democrat, it's left so much desired because
the Constitution allows it.
No, Constitution is one thing. The reality is a different thing entirely. I'm not talking about the Constitution.
Yeah.
The Constitution, yes, the Constitution says this, but the reality of the situation is that because you are coming from a background, remember, the Constitution was written by who? By people, isn't it? And these people, people would like to tell you, that we're also answerable to the military I'm talking about. So what you have as Constitution today is also a legacy, that was given to us by the military. Just like what you had as Nigerian Constitution since 1963 up to now was bequeathed to us by the colonial masters. So until we get to a stage where we as Nigerians can sit down together and take a look at what we have as Constitution and do the needful. What is the needful? You begin to elect your leaders that will have empathy, that will have interest in you, that will do your bidding, through a system that is not corrupt, not like the system we have today. Fortunately, the process is already in place that I think will soon deliver what Nigerians, which is the electoral bill.
Thank you for bringing that up. Now, the electoral bill, which of course, if it's signed, yet to be signed into law. Now, there are a lot of divergent views on that electoral bill that is currently waiting Mr. President's signature to become an act. Now, what are your thoughts? Because some are saying that it will actually fix a lot of leadership challenge we are, confronted with in the country today.
Yeah, well,
why are people really afraid of this? Some people.
No, whoever is afraid of this are those who are benefiting from this organized crime system that we have. Because what we have had all until this point in time as elections are all organized crime. Because here you have a situation where the authority, whoever is in power at that time, will deploy all the arsenals at its disposal, like the military. Even the INEC itself is not independent. They are at the beck and call of whoever because the man appoints the INEC chairman and all the commissioners for that matter. In fact, everybody in INEC is appointed by the president, by whoever is in charge at the state level. What you have as state INEC, the commissioner there, the man in charge of state INEC, is appointed by the governor. So how do you have a level playing field in that situation? And what do? Not only do they use their paraphernalia of office, they also bring out our resources, to now, ensure that whether you win or not, they will use the money where the force cannot work, official force cannot work. They use our money. So what we had all along until now is organized crime. So this electoral bill that we are bringing today will start, I'm not saying to solve all the problems. It's not a full bullet, but it will begin to address those issues, because now power will now be transferred to people that are supposed to exercise it. And if you look at democracy itself, what does it say? It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So if from the beginning of the process, you now remove the people from the process, how do you remove the people? By, for instance, the kind of, even the primaries that we normally, conduct,
the indirect primary.
But in our party, we have direct primaries.
Now, some Nigerians are actually saying that perhaps you share a whole lot of responsibility here in for the situation we're in. When we talk about the challenge of leadership in the country, that you're equally responsible in the sense that you as an opposition party, you are not performing your role as an opposition party. And that's why you have today people, changing political parties. We had a situation whereby a national chairman came out to say that if you join their political party, your sins are forgiven and all of that. And then we see a whole lot of people from opposition party crossing to a party where they will be safe in a way.
Yeah, well, you see, if you look at the system, the entire system, it's, I agree, yes, we're at the developmental stage, but the fact of the matter is that there are certain fundamentals that we must, address if we really want democracy to grow, in this country. The political party, machinery, like you spoke about, it's a very, very, in fact, it's one of the most important institutions in the growth, in the establishment of democracy in every clime. So, but in our own case here, we fail to do the necessary things, fundamental things. Like, for instance, you talk about people cross-carpeting, isn't it? Somebody will win election on the platform of one party, and he will just wake up one day, and then we'll move to another party. And the authorities will say nothing. The laws are there. Nobody wants to enforce the law. The Speaker of the House of Assembly, especially here, the Bajamiala, there are people that we're supposed to have declared their seat vacant, but they will not, So not only the national chairman of a party that says, if you move to our party, your sins are forgiven, even the people that are the heads at the various tier of the government, like the National Assembly itself, the Senate President, because it's produced by the party, so if all sins committed, nobody even want to, but that is really the gravest damage that we can inflict on the democracy, because there is no way. You are talking about opposition parties. There's no way an opposition party will grow if you spend your money, your resources, and everything to produce maybe a governor or a House of Assembly, and that person can, at the flintest excuse, will now jump to another party, and nobody says anything because they will not say anything.
National Assembly but we have the call to address some of these challenges.
Yeah, but why are they not addressing it? That's the question you ask yourself. Look at the caricature we've made of democracy in this country. We've made of even opposition. Opposition cannot fight unless the laws are obeyed, and unless those who are in charge of enforcing those laws, wake up to their responsibilities. If that is not happening, what do? I spend my money, I spend my time, I produce a governor, I produce a House of Assembly, and the next moment, the following day, the man says, I'm going to another party, and nobody says. So oppositions are doing so much, but perhaps as we are now changing the scenario by this electoral bill, I hope and I believe Mr. President will sign it, will give the assent, because if he doesn't, like I always say, believe you me, he will hate himself, after he has left the scene, because he will see that he has left an opportunity to really write his name in gold as far as making this country to grow or to
I'm
even
sure
exist.
Anybody.
So I know some people are trying to see how they can frustrate that bill.
Trust me, anybody that sees opportunity to write his or her name in gold will seize the opportunity.
Do it. So I believe so. I believe so. So the issue is not about the opposition parties. The issue you can't clap with one hand, isn't it? If the opposition parties there are doing their bit, then let the other side, which is the authorities, also come forward, to really make, the whole thing to work. Otherwise, it can't work.
Okay. Thank you very much for speaking to us. It's been a pleasure. And we've been chatting with the national chairman of the Action Democratic Party, that's the ADP, in person of Engineer Y.Y. Sani. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. And of course, so we've been talking about leadership, and that leadership must start from the self. You have to invest yourself. You have to do a lot to lead yourself first before you can think of leading others, because leadership is very, very critical to any socioeconomic development achievement any nation or society can hope to achieve. So we must get it right from the home to the larger society. That is much we can take on the show. Next weekend, certainly we'll be looking at something really, really different, and I'm sure you will definitely look forward to it. We'll be talking about, will. Do you, prepare your will? Do you have a will in place in case, something just happened? Well, this are some of the things, customs and tradition of, sharing wills and all of that. So next weekend, make it a date with us. Bye for now.